There's a room in Texas where time stops. No windows, no sunlight, no second chances. Just a narrow gurney, strapped in leather, and a clock that never runs late. In this room, the state decides when a human being takes their final breath, not in war, not in chaos, but in silence, measured, controlled, legal. Welcome to Huntsville Unit, the most infamous execution site in the United States, a place where over 500 men have been put to death, where last words echo longer than gunshots, and where every step from the cell to the chamber is rehearsed like a ritual. Tonight, we're going inside, not just the walls, but the process, the psychology, the final hours, the people who carry it out, and the question no one inside this prison can escape. What does it really mean to execute a human being? Stay with me, because what happens behind these walls? Most people were never meant to see. Inside Texas Execution Chamber, Huntsville Prison, the most feared room in Texas. Deep inside the walls unit in Huntsville, Texas, past layers of locked steel doors, beyond surveillance cameras and armed guards, there's a room that looks almost ordinary. No dramatic lighting, no elaborate machinery, just a bed, but not the kind you sleep in. This one is bolted to the floor, covered in dark vinyl, with restraints of the arms, the legs, and the chest. This is where executions happen, by lethal injection, a process designed to appear clinical, almost peaceful. But make no mistake, there is nothing peaceful about what happens here. The setup before an execution begins, everything is checked, twice, sometimes 3 times. The chemicals are prepared in advance. The 4 lines are tested. The witnesses are scheduled. Even the timing is precise. In Texas, executions are typically carried out at 6 p.m. sharp, not earlier, not later, because in this system, even death runs on a schedule. The viewing room, separated by glass, sits the witness chamber. This is where victims' families watch, where journalists take notes, where silence becomes unbearable. On the other side, the condemned man is already strapped down, unable to move, unable to escape. The final walk. But before any of that happens, there's a journey, one that every death row inmate in Texas must take. They call it the last walk. It begins in a holding cell, just feet away from the execution chamber. This is where the inmate waits for the final call. Death row in Texas. Most people imagine death row as a single place, one building, one block. But in Texas, it's different. Death row inmates are housed at the Polunsky Unit, a high-security prison designed for total control. Isolation is constant. Cells are small, concrete, steel, no privacy. Inmates spend up to 23 hours a day alone. No physical contact, no freedom of movement, just time, endless time. Life on death row. Meals are passed through slots in the door. Conversations happen through walls. Human contact becomes a memory. Days turn into years. Years turn into decades. And every inmate knows, at some point, their name may be called. The psychological weight. What does it do to a person to wait for their own execution? Some break. Some withdraw completely. Some become eerily calm. Because when death becomes certain, fear changes shape. It becomes quieter, heavier, more permanent. The transfer. When an execution date is set, everything changes. The inmate is transferred from Polunsky Unit to Huntsville. This is the final stage. No appeals left. No delays. No illusions. Just a countdown. The final 24 hours. The last 24 hours of a death row inmate's life are unlike anything most people can imagine. Every moment becomes significant. Every second accounted for. The last meal. Once, inmates were offered a final meal of their choosing. Anything they wanted. Steak, pizza, ice cream. But Texas ended that tradition. Now, they eat the same meal as every other inmate. No special treatment. No ceremony. Just another reminder. This isn't about comfort. It's about finality. The final visits. Family members may be allowed to visit, separated by glass. Words feel heavier. time feels shorter because everyone in that room knows this is the last conversation they will ever have. The final statement preparation. The inmate is also asked, "Do you have any last words?" Some write them down. Some rehearse them. Some refuse to speak at all. Because how do you summarize a life? In a few final sentences? The wait. And then comes the hardest part. Waiting. Not knowing exactly how it will feel. Not knowing if fear will take over. Not knowing if you'll be remembered for anything beyond this moment. Transition to next chapter. But nothing compares to what happens next. Because once the clock strikes 6, there's no turning back. No pause button. No second chances. Only procedure. Only protocol. And a system designed to end a life without hesitation. The execution process. Minute by minute inside the chamber. At exactly 6:00 p.m., the system begins to move. Not fast, not chaotic, but with a precision that feels almost mechanical. Because inside Huntsville, execution is an event. It's a procedure. The call, it starts with a phone call. A final check from the courts. The United States Supreme Court has the power to issue a last-minute stay. Sometimes it comes second before the deadline. Sometimes it doesn't come at all. When the call confirms there is no stay, everything becomes irreversible. The preparation room. The inmate is escorted into a small, sterile room. This is where the 4 lines are inserted, one in each arm, a backup in case something fails. Medical staff, often anonymous, sometimes controversial, prepare the lines. There's no conversation beyond what's necessary. No comfort. No ceremony. Just function. The walk. Then comes the final movement. From preparation room to chamber. Just a few steps. But for the person walking them, it's the longest distance they will ever travel. Some walk steadily. Some hesitate. Some look around, as if trying to memorize a room. Strapped down. Inside the chamber, the gurney waits. Cold, still, unforgiving. The inmate is instructed to lie down, arms extended, palms up, straps are secured across the chest. The legs, the wrists, tight enough to prevent movement, loose enough to maintain circulation. Every detail calibrated. The witnesses enter. Behind the glass, the witnesses are already seated. Victims' families, reporters, sometimes the inmates' own relatives. No one speaks. No one moves. Because this is the moment where reality becomes undeniable. The final statement. A prison official steps forward and asks a question that carries more weight than anything said before. Do you have any last words? Some inmates apologize. Some express love. Some maintain innocence. Some say nothing at all. But whatever is said, those words become history. Recorded, transcribed, archived, forever tied to this moment. The signal, once the statement ends. The warden gives a subtle nod. That's it. No countdown. No announcement. Just a signal. The chemicals. What follows is designed to appear peaceful. But beneath that surface, it's a controlled shutdown of the human body. A single drug is administered. A powerful sedative. Its purpose, to render the inmate unconscious. To stop breathing. To slow the heart. Until it stops. The transition. Within moments, the body begins to change. Breathing becomes shallow, then irregular, then absent. The chest stops rising. The room stays silent. Because nothing dramatic happens. No visible struggle. Just stillness. The declaration. A doctor steps in, checks for signs of life, listens, waits, and then announces the time of death, usually within minutes. Sometimes longer, but always final. Aftermath. The witnesses are escorted out. The chamber is cleared, and within hours, the room is reset, cleaned, prepared, ready for the next execution. Because in Huntsville, this process doesn't end. It repeats. The people who carry it out. Executions don't happen on their own. Behind every procedure, there are people, guards, wardens, medical staff, individuals who show up to work, knowing exactly what their role is. The guards, for correctional officers, execution day is different. The tension is heavier, the silence deeper, because they're not just maintaining order. They're part of something irreversible. Some guards refuse to participate. Others accept it as part of the job. But almost all of them agree on one thing. It never feels normal. The warden carries the final authority inside the chamber. That subtle nod is the last human decision before death, and it's a decision that stays with them long after the room is empty. The medical staff, perhaps the most controversial role, belongs to the medical personnel. Their job is to administer the 4 lines, to ensure the process works as intended. But it raises a question that has no easy answer. What does it mean for a medical professional to participate in ending a life? The emotional cost. Many who work executions don't talk about it publicly, but privately, the impact is real. Sleep becomes harder, memories become sharper, and certain moments, a last look, a final sentence, don't fade. Last words that still echo. In Huntsville, last words are more than tradition. They are the final record of a life. And sometimes they say more than everything that came before. Reality of final statements. Over the years, hundreds of statements have been recorded. Some are filled with regret, others with defiance. Some are directed at victims' families, others at no one at all. The patterns. Certain themes repeat. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. I love you. Take care of my family. Simple words. But in that room, they carry a weight most people will never understand. The silence. And then there are those who say nothing. No statement. No apology. No defense. Just silence, which, in a room like that, can be louder than anything spoken. Transition, building tension. But beyond the procedure, beyond the roles, beyond the final words, there's a deeper question. One that follows every execution. Not inside the chamber, but outside it, in public, in courts, in families. A question that refuses to go away. Is this justice or something else entirely? When the system fails. The hidden reality of lethal injection. Narrator measured investigative tone. From the outside, lethal injection is presented as controlled, precise, almost clinical. But behind that image, there have been moments when the system didn't work as planned. Moments that raise questions no one inside the chamber could ignore. The idea of a perfect execution. Lethal injection was introduced as a more humane alternative, a method designed to minimize visible distress, to make death appear peaceful. But that appearance depends on one critical factor. Everything has to go exactly right. When IT doesn't, there have been cases where 4 lines were difficult to place, where procedures took longer than expected, where witnesses noticed delays, subtle signs that something wasn't going according to protocol. No chaos, no public spectacle, just tension, the kind that builds quietly in a room where no one is allowed to speak. The silence around it. What makes these moments different is how little is said about them. Execution chambers are controlled environments. Information is limited, access is restricted, and what the public sees is often only a fraction of what actually happens. The bigger question. So the debate continues. Can any system designed to end a life ever be truly flawless? Or is imperfection inevitable? 2 sides of the glass. Grief, justice, and closure. On execution day, there are always 2 groups of people watching, separated by glass, but connected by something deeper. Loss. The victims' families. For many victims' families, this moment represents closure, a final chapter, a point where justice feels complete. They've waited years, sometimes decades, through trials, appeals, delays, and now they're here, watching the process reach its conclusion. The inmate's family, on the other side, is another kind of grief. Parents, siblings, children, people who are about to lose someone in a way the world rarely talks about. For them, this isn't justice. It's loss, the shared silence inside the witness room. These 2 realities exist at the same time. No one speaks. No one interacts. But the tension is undeniable, because both sides are experiencing something final, something irreversible. Does it bring closure? Some say yes, that seeing the sentence carried out brings peace. Others say no, that nothing can truly undo what's been done, and that the moment itself doesn't feel like an ending, just a different kind of beginning. Cases that left a mark. When the world was watching, over the years, certain executions in Texas have drawn national attention. Cases that spark debate, protests, headlines across the world. Why some cases stand out. Not every execution becomes widely known, but some carry elements that capture public attention. Claims of innocence, questions about evidence, the scale of the crime, or the story behind the person on death row. The media spotlight. When these cases reach their final stage, Huntsville becomes more than a prison. It becomes a focal point. Journalists gather outside. Protesters line the streets. Supporters and opponents stand just feet apart, all waiting for the same moment. The impact. These high-profile cases often leave a lasting mark, not just on the families involved, but on the broader conversation around capital punishment. They force people to ask harder questions, to look closer, to reconsider what they believe. A system under scrutiny. The debate that never ends. The death penalty in Texas is one of the most debated systems in the world. Supporters argue it delivers justice, that it holds the most serious offenders accountable, that it provides closure for victims' families. The opposition. Critics see it differently. They question its fairness, its accuracy, its morality. They point to the risk of irreversible mistakes, and the reality that once a sentence is carried out, there's no going back. A divided view. Public opinion remains divided, and every execution adds another layer to the debate, because no matter where someone stands, one thing is certain. This isn't a question with a simple answer. The last door. What remains after the silence? When the chamber is empty and the witnesses are gone, the room doesn't change. The gurney remains. The straps stay in place. The lights stay on. There's no ceremony to close the day. No acknowledgement of what just happened. Just paperwork, reports, routine. But outside those walls, the impact lingers. In families, in memories, in questions that don't have clear answers. Because what happens inside Huntsville doesn't stay there. It becomes part of something larger. A conversation about justice, about responsibility, about the value of a human life. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all. Not the procedure, not the room, not even the final moment, but the fact that after everything is done, the system resets and prepares to do it again. Call to action. If this story made you think, question, or see things differently, then you're already part of the conversation. Because what happens behind prison walls isn't just history. It's happening now. If you want more deep, unfiltered documentaries like this, hit subscribe. Stay with the channel, because there are more stories that the world rarely sees.